You're about to discover how China secretly took over the global manufacturing industry. Right now, 28% of everything made on planet Earth comes from China. That's more than the United States, Germany, and Japan combined. They went from farming villages to manufacturing superpower in just 40 years, and most of the world didn't notice until it was too late. Here's exactly how they did it. But this takeover didn't start with factories. It started with something far more calculated. In 1978, a man named Deng Xiaoping made a decision that would change global manufacturing forever. He opened 4 experimental zones along China's coast: Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Shantou, and Xiamen. These weren't normal cities. They were manufacturing laboratories with one purpose: attract every foreign factory on Earth. The offer was simple and impossible to refuse. Wages 1/20th of what Western workers earned. No environmental restrictions slowing down production. Tax breaks that made accountants weep with joy. Land so cheap, it felt like theft. And foreign companies took the bait hard. Factories flooded in by the thousands. Nike, Sony, General Electric, Motorola, they all came thinking they'd found the deal of the century. Cheap labor, fast production, massive profits. But here's what they missed. Every single factory that opened trained Chinese workers and managers. Every manufacturing process, every quality control system, every supply chain, secret Chinese engineers. Watched, learned, and memorized. Joint ventures required foreign companies to partner with Chinese firms, which meant knowledge flowed directly into Chinese hands, whether the foreigners realized it or not. Within 10 years, Chinese engineers understood every manufacturing process that had taken the West a century to develop. The expertise compounded. More factories meant more trained workers, which attracted more factories, which trained more workers. Shenzhen went from a fishing village of 30,000 people to a manufacturing metropolis of 12 million in 3 decades. But here's where it gets interesting. Cheap labor was never the end game. It was just the foundation for something much bigger. While the rest of the world was building websites, China was building the physical backbone of manufacturing at a scale nobody had ever attempted. They started with ports. Not just a few, 7 of the world's 10 largest container ports. Shanghai Port alone handles 47 million containers every single year. That's more than Los Angeles and Long Beach combined. Then they built the roads to feed those ports. 93,000 miles of expressways constructed in just 30 years. For context, the United States built its interstate system over 40 years and stopped at 48,000 miles. But China wasn't done yet. They built 26,000 miles of high-speed rail connecting every major manufacturing hub. Freight moves at 120 miles per hour between cities. Then came the power infrastructure, 600 gigawatts of generation capacity added in a single decade. Factories never sleep because the grid never fails. Here's where the genius becomes clear. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was a speed weapon. You can move goods from any factory in China to any port in the world in 48 hours. Shipping within China costs less than shipping across Texas. Production timelines that seemed physically impossible became standard operating procedure. And while they were building roads and railways, they were building something even more valuable: people. China started graduating 4 times more engineers than the United States every single year. 30 million engineers and technicians trained simultaneously. They built 500 industrial parks with ready-made infrastructure, power, water, and waste management systems. Just plug in your factory and start producing. Every infrastructure upgrade made manufacturing faster and cheaper, which justified more infrastructure investment, which made manufacturing even faster and cheaper. The compound effect created advantages that couldn't be caught up to, they could only be watched. But infrastructure only matters if you have something to make, and that's where the next piece changed everything. Here's where China did something no other country has ever managed to pull off. They built entire cities, dedicated to single industries, complete manufacturing ecosystems, where every supplier, every component maker, every tool manufacturer exists within hours of each other. Yiwu makes small commodities, Dongguan makes electronics, Wenzhou makes shoes, Xixi makes textiles. But these aren't just cities with factories scattered around. They're precision-engineered manufacturing clusters where proximity creates speed nobody else can match. Let me show you what this actually means. In Shenzhen, within 1 square mile, you can find suppliers for smartphone screens, batteries, cameras, circuit boards, aluminum chassis, and final assembly. Every single component. A company can go from prototype to mass production in 2 weeks. That same process takes 6 months in the United States. Then came the most devastating advantage of all. China didn't just build supply chains, they built irreplaceable supply chains. They control 90% of rare earth processing. These elements are in every smartphone, every electric vehicle, every wind turbine, every advanced electronic device. You literally cannot manufacture modern technology without them. They produce 1 billion tons of steel annually, more than the next 10 countries combined. They control 60% of global aluminum smelting capacity. They dominate pharmaceutical ingredient production, industrial chemicals, and battery components. Here's the part that should terrify competitors. When COVID hit and Chinese factories shut down, global manufacturing didn't slow down, it stopped. Automakers idled assembly plants because they couldn't get chips. Apple delayed product launches because screen suppliers went dark. Medical equipment companies couldn't get basic components. The entire world discovered simultaneously that modern manufacturing doesn't just happen in China, it depends on China. Companies tried to relocate. They drew up plans to move production to Vietnam, India, Mexico. Then they realized the brutal truth. You can't just move a factory. You need the supplier 3 blocks away who makes your screws. The chemical plant 2 miles away that produces your adhesive. The tool shop that can repair your machinery in 4 hours. Recreating these networks doesn't take months, it takes decades and hundreds of billions of dollars. But supply chains only gave them necessity. What came next gave them total dominance. China didn't just build factories, they built factories at a scale that changed the fundamental economics of manufacturing itself. Let's start with solar panels. China produces 78% of the world's supply, but here's what that actually means. They drove the cost of solar panels down 90% in 15 years through pure manufacturing volume. They didn't invent better technology. They just made so many panels that the unit cost collapsed. Competitors couldn't match the prices, so they went bankrupt. Now China owns the industry. Lithium batteries, the ones in your phone, your laptop, your electric car. China manufactures 77% of global supply. They produce more batteries in 1 month than some countries make in a year. Steel production? Their annual output equals the entire historical steel production of the Roman Empire, every single year. But it wasn't just solar panels and batteries. Consumer electronics. They assemble 90% of the world's smartphones and 70% of all computers. Industrial robots? They install more manufacturing robots every year than the rest of the world combined. Textiles? 500,000 factories producing everything from thread to finished garments. They ship 40% of the world's maritime cargo because they're making 40% of what needs to be shipped. Here's where the economics become unstoppable. Volume drives down unit costs. That's basic manufacturing. But China took this principle to an extreme nobody had ever attempted. When you're producing at 10 times the scale of your nearest competitor, your cost per unit becomes so low that competition becomes mathematically impossible. You can sell at prices that would bankrupt anyone else and still turn a profit. And it wasn't just traditional manufacturing that was falling apart for competitors. They built factories that run 24 hours a day with automation levels Western plants can't touch. The cycle became self-reinforcing. Volume enabled massive investment in automation, which increased volume, which enabled more automation investment. Take electric vehicles. BYD produces more EVs every single month than most manufacturers make in an entire year. The cost advantages from that volume made them the world's largest EV maker, surpassing Tesla. The same pattern repeated across every industry. Appliances, furniture, machinery, power tools, construction equipment. Achieve dominant volume, crash the unit costs, make competition economically impossible. It's not that other countries can't manufacture these products, it's that they can't manufacture them at prices anyone would pay. But for China, volume dominance was never the final goal. It was the foundation for the most important transformation of all. Here's where the story stops being about cheap labor and becomes about technological dominance. China didn't just stay in low-cost manufacturing, they climbed the ladder to the most sophisticated production on Earth: semiconductors. They're now producing 7-nanometer processors through SMIC. These are the advanced chips that run everything from smartphones to artificial intelligence systems. Precision machinery that once only came from Germany or Japan. CNC machines, injection molding equipment. Industrial robotics now rolls off Chinese production lines at the same quality levels. Aerospace manufacturing. They're building commercial aircraft, satellites, and rockets. Medical equipment that used to be exclusively Western MRI machines, surgical robots, diagnostic equipment now comes from Chinese factories. They produce 70% of the world's active pharmaceutical ingredients, the actual chemicals that go into the pills you take. But then came the sector that revealed just how far they'd advanced. Green technology. China doesn't just make solar panels, they make the equipment that makes solar panels. They dominate wind turbine manufacturing and the specialized machinery to produce them. Battery technology? They're leading global development in solid-state batteries, the next generation that could revolutionize energy storage. The quality transformation happened so fast, it caught everyone off guard. Defect rates now match or beat international standards. Tesla's Shanghai factory produces cars faster than their Fremont, California plant. Not cheaper, faster, and more efficiently. When Elon Musk, the man who revolutionized American manufacturing, builds his most efficient factory in China, you know something fundamental has shifted. And here's the final piece that completes the takeover. They're now exporting manufacturing equipment and expertise globally. Chinese companies are building factories in other countries, bringing their manufacturing knowledge with them. The students became the teachers. So, when you look at that Made in China label now, you're not seeing cheap labor. You're seeing 4 decades of the most strategic industrial build-out in human history. Special economic zones that attracted the world's factories. Infrastructure built at impossible scale and speed. Supply chains so integrated they became irreplaceable. Manufacturing volume that broke traditional economics. And technological capabilities that now lead entire industries. 28% of everything made on Earth. More than the next 3 countries combined. They didn't just take over global manufacturing. They built the machine the entire world depends on. And they did it while everyone was looking the other way.